Good evening. Happy Sunday. I think I have been live every night of the week with the exception of Saturdays and Sundays. So I said I was going to check this out. Um, I sent out an email to my email list a couple of weeks ago, maybe a week and a half ago, saying, like, hey, I am taking a break. I show up every week going live. There are some other things I'm working on, but you all know I missed you. I couldn't stay away. So maybe 7 minutes ago, I sent out a message that said, "Hey, I'm going live on YouTube only, and you know what? If people hop on, that's cool. If they miss it, that's cool too. I appreciate those of you that are hopping on now to join me. Let me know who you are, because of course I can't see that on here. Let me know who you are in the comments and where you're tuning in from. I'm going to get straight to the point tonight because I am prepping some stuff for the week. You know, you want to plan your week before the week actually gets there. So I'm going to get back to that. Let you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday evening or afternoon, whatever it may be, where you are at. If you are new to me in the channel, my name is Timlin Bowens, and I am America's favorite EA. As an enrolled agent, I'm licensed through the Internal Revenue Service to represent taxpayers all over the world as long as they have a U.S. tax problem. Now, with that being said, I'm the owner of Bowens Tax Solutions, and that is a virtual firm based in Louisville, Kentucky, and we specialize and focus in tax representation. So I have clients in Baghdad. Yes, clients, plural. Have clients in Italy, I have clients in different parts of the United States. And what I love about what I do is I'm able to ease the fears of these taxpayers by stepping in and talking to the IRS on their behalf to handle their tax situations. Now, in this video tonight, it's not going to be about me per se doing tax representation. Instead, this video is for my fellow tax professionals, specifically enrolled agents, and I want to talk to you all about pricing. Now, like I said, I do focus on tax representation in my firm. However, as an enrolled agent, you're not limited to just doing tax representation. Right now, today is January 26th, so the majority of you are getting ready for tax season. The IRS officially opens up and begins receiving, or I should say, accepting tax returns for individuals on tomorrow. Some of you may be in a spot in your firm where maybe you don't have any returns prepared yet because you're still building your business. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see enrolled agents, tax professionals, CPAs, whatever the category, when they go out on their own, they haven't mastered the art of pricing. And look, it's not just a mistake that I see, it's something that I did and experienced myself. So if you don't have any clients, if you hadn't made any quotes, you are in the right spot because we're going to talk about the science of pricing on tonight. Now, tonight, we're going to talk specifically about tax preparation prices. In my mentorship group and in the beta program right now, like we're going to talk about the different types of services you can offer and figuring out the pricing for that. So just giving that disclaimer so you know that we're focused on tax prep tonight. Now, before I get all the way in there, I do see some people dropped in. I want to give some shout outs. So, shout out to Misha in Arizona. You actually hopped on and dropped in the comments before I was good and live. So, good evening to you. I know it's 8:06 here in Louisville, Kentucky. So, it's about 5:06 there in Arizona, I do believe. We have the Irvia Dunbar. Hey, girl. Hey, Dallas in the building. What's up, Texas? We have Miss DeLacy Cobb. Hello from Michigan. I hope it's not freezing cold. I was going to say Dwayne. It's not Dwayne. This is Nellie Parsons. Hope you are having a good evening. Now, right now, it's slipping my mind where you're at, but I hope you are inside and warm, not running errands or anything tonight. And then we have One Village Salon saying hello from DC. Now, One Village Salon, are you here as a tax professional or are you here as a taxpayer hoping to get some tips and feedback on tonight in the video? Because I will say tonight I'm talking about pricing, but if you're not a tax professional, um, this may give you some insight into some of the things that go into the pricing for tax professionals that may help you understand better the pricing that your preparer has. All right, so just show of hands or show of hey, hey in the comments. How many of you all actually have returns that are prepared, reviewed, and ready to be filed tomorrow? Cool Beans, One Village Salon, thank you for joining us tonight. Like I said, I am going to be focused on what goes into pricing, so it may give you some insight, different perspective on that, which you may be paying right now for tax preparation. But I've had people attend pricing workshops that that I have done, and they were able to apply the same principles to their business. So thank you for being here tonight. If you do have any tax related questions, still feel free to drop them down in the comments, because I may do a video covering that question or concern later. So Irvia says ready. Dwayne/Nelly is ready. One Village Salon, Utah 1099 class I took. Oh, awesome. So probably when I was teaching on the Clatted platform, I'm no longer affiliated with them. However, I did teach a 1099 class for this year on my own platform last Thursday. But unfortunately, there isn't a replay available for that class. But yeah, thank you so much for following me from that. So I'm going to take it that something I said in there was good if you decided to be on here with me on YouTube a year or two later. Tax returns ready, sitting for SE2 Saturday the 2nd. Yo, congratulations. Well, first of all, Cool Beans having tax returns ready. Like I said, I don't focus on tax preparation, although I do it. I just started meeting with returning clients last week, so I don't have any returns ready and prepped to go out the door. Actually, I take that back. I do have some from 2023 that are ready to go out the door, but I'm waiting for signatures and payment, so they're gonna sit there, right? Cool. So tax returns ready. Nelly says ready. Misha says I do. Awesome, awesome, awesome. So for the returns that you already have ready, do not go back and change the price on those folks unless they are extremely underpriced. And then maybe you could say that you gave a misquote because, in all fairness, that's what you've done. So I have shared my experience on the channel, and if you have not seen or know yet, like if you're newer here, I did not go straight into this industry on my own, right? So I had 3 seasons with a big accounting firm, public accounting firm, Crowe Horwath, and with them, like, I got to work on a great array of things, all right? So FI, which is financial institutions, I got to work with S corps, corporations, partnerships, publicly traded, like, almost anything you could think of, estates, farms, I got to have exposure to and work with that. Now, when preparing a return of that magnitude, one of the things that I don't think I learned until my 2nd season, maybe, working with a senior in the firm, was how to figure out the budget for the tax return. So what that means is we're taking a look at what the client was quoted, right? Proposal, what they paid. Then it's looking at the billable hours. Okay. And I want you to take this into consideration. Billable hours are different than what a person gets paid an hour. Okay. So let's say, for example, that when I work on something, the billable hour is $500, right? That's what the client gets charged, which realistically, if I'm doing representation work and you look at the hourly rate, as an enrolled agent, my billable hour are $500. However, as the business owner, if it's me meeting with the client, if it's somebody else representing the firm, that billable hour is not how much I get paid an hour. Okay. So creating budgets for tax returns and looking at the billable hours, when I stepped out on my own, I thought in terms of billable hours because when you step out on your own, it's easy to not make the distinction between the business and yourself. So let's say, for example, that a basic 1040, let's say two individuals married, both of them employed and have one child. Let's say, just for the sake of this example, that takes an hour. Well, in my head, I'm thinking, okay, I had this billable hour here. This is how much I made. I don't have to charge as much as them, and I can still make the more money than I was at the firm. Well, here's the thing. By the time that I had stepped away from the firm with all of the experience I had, I wasn't taking into account that the basic W-2 return that I'm doing here isn't much in terms of the difficulty level of what I was doing over here. So instantly, my value stepping outside of the firm was higher as far as a billable rate should go because I'm more of an expert. Okay? Stick with me. In addition to that, I'm thinking, okay, this is how much I want to make in my business and not making the distinction between myself and the business. So when you were looking to do your pricing, yes, there's an amount that you should set and be like, okay, this is how much I want to make. But you have to think in terms of this is how much I want to make for my business. And then this is how much I want to make as a business owner, right? Because if you're a tax professional on here, I hope you know that with the Schedule C, you're going to get taxed and pay taxes on everything that's netted, but that doesn't necessarily mean that went into your pocket. So for me, and like I said, this is personal experience, not just a mistake I see other people make. I'm America's favorite EA. I did the same thing when I stepped away from that firm back in 2013, right? I looked and I said, man, like this isn't going to take me as long. Like I can compete on price and charge less, which automatically devalued myself and the expertise that I had from working the 3 years in public accounting. So then I'm thinking I'm making more money, but not realizing as the business owner, now I have more cost, right? As an employee, cool, I got certain stuff coming out of my check, but that's still benefiting me. Now, as the business owner, I have to take into consideration certain things that are overhead. Okay. So let's just say, for starters, you're brand spanking new, you're going to start doing these returns. Where's my finger? You need to take into consideration your tax software. If Jackson Hewitt has this deal where they're saying they are going to start charging people at $50, sis, brother, man, that doesn't mean that you can do that because where they're competing at is price because they already know that they have the volume. You just starting out this first year may only do 25 tax returns. If you only do 25 tax returns, you have no business charging $50 because you're not even going to be able to pay for your tax software. Okay. But we have to take into consideration the direct overhead. So we're looking at your tax software. We all need secure client portals. Email's not going to cut. I'll snitch on you myself. All right. But like, no, in all seriousness, we have to keep the client's data secure. Email is not secure. So you have to invest in a portal, right? An encrypted portal. Then, just in case you mess up and there's some type of exposure, you need error and omission insurance. You also need cyber security insurance because remember, now we have to have the WISP. That's the plan that lets you that you're supposed to follow in case there's a breach that you have to follow or else insurance isn't going to cover you. These are just some of your basic requirements, but now I'm already to overhead costs that might be $5,000. Easy, right? But people are so focused on competing on price instead of being an expert in showing that expertise, offering a customer service that their clients can't find elsewhere. You all know what? That Leave Your Tax Preparer commercial that TurboTax did, I thought it was funny. I understand why people were offended, but TurboTax was never, ever, ever my client. They can't offer the same type of expertise that I do. They're taking people at entry level. They were never my competition. And guess what? If you have your own firm and you're offering that concierge service, you should not be trying to compete with them on price either. Again, they have the volume, so their price per person who they're serving is going to be low. Now, before I get into all this, let me get off my hi-hat. If you're in here, this is cool. Let me know if it's good, good, good. So let me go back to this. So, Irvia, awesome. You got the tax returns ready. Wishing you all the best with your exam. The second is that is Saturday? Or are you saying March 2nd? Let me look really quick. And is this your second exam you're taking or just SEE2? So, like, do you still have to take part 3? Yes or no? All right. So the second is definitely popping up as a Sunday for me. And the reason I knew that is because the Lady Cards are playing Notre Dame that day. It's a big ACC game. But whether it's Saturday or not, wishing you all the best. Misha, we looked at that. Misha, correction. I have a tax return from 2022 and 2023. Hey, awesome. What I would advise you to do if you have not already, make it a Money Monday. Go through your book of business. Everybody that owes you money, that should be your first task that you do tomorrow. Hitting them up like, hey, we have your return ready. We're just waiting for your signature and payment. When can you meet to do this? If they still have to review it, if they don't have to review it, that's already been done. Like, hey, we are sitting here holding space to get this done for you. When do you think that you'll have the payment ready? All right. If you have done a service for somebody, please do not be timid to ask for your payment. Okay. La Sharika Homeschools, one of my content creation sisters. How are you doing? Thank you for joining me on tonight. So Irvia says this Saturday. So what is that? The first? Okay. For sure. I think you are, but if you're not, you should join the How to Start an EA Firm, the free community within there. Let me know when you pass all 3 parts, all right, to make sure we celebrate you. It's 2-1 Saturday, 3 pass, 1 pass, but it's expired. So I'm knocking it out shortly after I pass 2. Cool beans. You can definitely get it knocked out before the testing window, the blackout date. All right. So I'm rooting for you. So let's get back to the pricing. And I will tell you this, I'm trying not to go all in because the people in the beta program tomorrow, we're actually going to be working on this and we'll be reverse engineering. So actually looking at their services in detail with how much they want to make, the services, what they can have included in those services so that the pricing actually meets the value that's being given and it makes sense. Okay. Now, I should have asked this before I even got started. With the example that I gave, about having the overhead, making sure that your overhead is covered in pricing. Does anybody, and it does not even matter if you're an enrolled agent or not, because like I said, when I do pricing classes, I got other people, business owners hopping here too. Does anybody have any specific questions about pricing for tax preparation or any service that you offer in your EA firm? Like I said, I'm still going to keep it focused on tax prep, but if you have questions about pricing your other services, go ahead and drop those in the comments as well. And I'm going to get my notes pulled up. Because y'all know I could talk about having an EA firm all day, every day. Let me see. Hey, Tony. Thanks for hopping on. Tony Frezza is like gotta be one of the top 10 EAs, period. That's my tax bro from Florida, FSEA. If you're a member of NAEA, one of the major reasons that I joined is because of the advocacy that NAEA does for the EA designation. Tony is part of the PAC committee. If you don't know what I'm talking about as far as NAEA and the advocacy, I'd be super happy to talk to you about it. But one of the people who taught me about the importance of the PAC was Tony. So I'm honored that you hopped on to say what's up to me. Yeah, not too kind at all. I'm looking forward to seeing you at Fly In this year. Thanks for hopping on, Tony. Natasha says, "Oh, nice. Can't wait. Yeah, we're going to have a good time tomorrow." Natasha, I hope I don't overwhelm you all. Because, yeah, we're talking about client services and pricing, getting the homework in. Hey, Alex. Thanks for tuning in tonight. All right. So this article is also in the description. I'm going to drop it here in the live notes as well. Hopefully you can copy and paste that. And Natasha, let me know if you can access that or not. I think I got everything together now. So here's a question that I have for you all with tax prep. There's no wrong answer here. Okay. Currently, for your pricing, because like I said, pricing is a science, there's different ways that you can do it. Do you do a flat fee pricing? So all your 1040s, you charge $500. That would be an example. Or do you do forms-based pricing where you charge based on the forms that you have to complete to prepare the tax return, right? So there's a flat fee, base fee for the 1040. Then maybe for each additional state, you charge a certain price. For a Schedule C, you charge a certain price. And that's how you come up with the total for your pricing. Or do you do hourly billing, which means it took me 30 minutes. We ran the clock. You have an hourly billing rate, and then that's what you charge for the preparation of the return. Or do you do value pricing where your price is based on the value that you provide to the client? All right. So I said flat fee, forms based, hourly, and value pricing. Natasha, don't laugh too hard. I remember the first time a client told me I am the meanest nice person they know. They're like, "I know I'm paying you to do this, but whew, this is a lot." So it's all good. Paid me to push you to the limit. Now, come on, y'all. I got 14 people still on here. Don't everybody put in here at once. Which pricing model do you use for your tax preparation? Value pricing, hourly billing, forms based, or flat fee? Cool. So Alex actually does what I do for tax prep. He says flat fee base form pricing. I charge for the 1040, then charge for additional schedules attached. That is how I do it personally. And And some people, they disagree with that and they say, okay, so you're really gonna like uh nitpick and for every single form. And for the type of clients that I have worked with, that makes sense. Now, there are some people, some adjustments had to be made. So, like this year, no joke, it was a long time coming because I hadn't actually changed my prices since 2020, I believe. In 2020, that's because I had gotten different softwares. And due to the stuff that was going on in the world, like I saw a huge increase in my business because I was already set up to be virtual and a lot of places in the area weren't. So, excuse me, I brought on elderly clients because the AARP places were closed, right? So it was kind of cool because right before everything shut down for COVID, I lost my last grandparent. He transitioned on Valentine's Day of 2020, but then I got to go hang out with a lot of people who reminded me of my grandparents because all the AARP places were closed. So I put my mask on and I went and sat at dining room tables and did tax returns and they'd get their checkbook out and they'd pay me, right? But I was going back through this past fall and I was like, Timlin, what is wrong with you? You all, I hadn't raised my tax prep prices since 2020. And I think everybody has access to the same internet and grocery stores and stuff as I do. Let's talk about eggs alone, right? It costs more money to be outside. So why in the world had I not raised my prices? I don't know. And I said all that to say, I raised my base fee this year for 1040s by $100. You guys know the crazy thing? I always talk to people who are like, oh my goodness, I can't raise my prices. They could go somewhere cheaper. Okay, if they could go somewhere cheaper and that's their main concern, then you weren't offering them any value. Sorry. You guys know nobody I've talked to, and some people have been raised way past 100. Nobody has blinked an eye. Nobody's even hesitated. So, just putting that out there, if that's one of your fears, some people would say I didn't raise them enough. But even if you lose people from raising your prices with the people who stay, you may still make the same amount of money, but not working as hard. With that, though, with the form based pricing, it made sense for the clients that I had because there were certain things I knew would be included in that base price. For example, a nice portion of my W-2 clients, I have to do the additional Medicare and all that calculation. So I don't charge extra for that form because it's already built in. See what I mean? Or if I have somebody who maybe they are on the lower end of income, and that's relative, right? If they're on that lower end, then I may include in their 1040 base rate the retirement savings credit, right? So there is a little bit of leeway in there. So I see flat plus form based, flat fee for now. Nelly says flat. My services is flat plus form based. Okay, cool. Flat fee based. My software does it for me, so no nitpicking. So what other professionals have given me a hard time about is just saying that it's nitpicking because I'm charging for every single little form. And yeah, anyway. Anyway, I'll come back to that so I don't get started on a high horse. Um, let me see. So for the people who use a flat fee, I do have a question to propose for you, but let me check this out first. Tony says, I start first by classifying returns 1 through 4. One simple, or not 4. Y'all, I can read Roman numerals. I promise. 1 through 5. One simple, 5 entities. Start with base price for each class, then adjust. Cool. Value pricing for my monthly non-transactional clients. Cool beans. Well, Arvia, that is you're a saint. She says, or my younger mothers who want the advance, I cover the fee and don't upcharge them. So with my people that do flat fee, here's something I want to take you to take into consideration. All right. Are you covering all your costs with your flat fee if you have different types of clients? Let me give you an example. Base or form-based pricing can get tricky. It's gotten tricky for me because maybe I have a person who is a wage earner, but they are they receive trust K1s, right? Or maybe they're involved in partnerships and all other kind of stuff. But every single box in that K1 is filled out. Versus my client who maybe they're a silent investor in a partnership and they only have box 1 in the K1 filled out. In my opinion, I'm doing forms based to cover the work that I'm doing for the forms, but with a K1 like that, clearly the person who is receiving the trust income, I'm doing far more work than the person who only has one box filled out on the K1, that being box 1, right? So for my people that do a flat fee, how do you adjust for that? And if you want to share in the comments, you can, you don't have to, but I just want you to take this into consideration. I think a flat fee is perfect if you only serve one type of client. Because take this into consideration. Some of you all may be solo practitioners. So it may take you the same amount of time to prepare each type of return. However, let's take into consideration that you have employees. And maybe your employee is not as efficient as you as preparing the return. Or maybe not only are they not as efficient as you in time, maybe they haven't done this type of return before. So they're taking longer than you would. And now, in addition to that, you have to go back and make corrections. Let's say you make notes so they can go back and make corrections. Now you have to teach them how to do this return. So with this flat fee, you may be making less money with your rental, your clients who have invested in rental property versus your clients who are Schedule C. So for me, I did not do flat fee pricing because people don't understand this unless they're in the area. I did 3 seasons in public accounting, but then when I left, because of the business school that I graduated from, actually, shout out to Bellarmine, go Knights. There were people who were waiting to work with me who would not have been able to afford to work with me at the CPA firm. So literally when I stepped out of there, I stepped into having business. Thank God, because I know that's definitely favor. That's not everybody's story. But some of my classmates were trust fund babies. Some of my classmates didn't have anything to their name other than student loans. So my classmate who hasn't found a job in their major and is still working the same kind of job as when we were in college with student loans, I couldn't charge them the same as a classmate who has started a business, has a W-2, maxing out the 401k and HSA, and they also have their trust K1s and their K1s from S corps and partnerships that their parents have invested them in. They have a stock portfolio. So it doesn't make sense for me in my firm. But if you were targeting and accepting clients in different industries with different backgrounds, for my flat fee people, I want you to take that into consideration as well. Because what is happening What you may not realize right now, if you're not creating a budget for your returns, is that you're actually losing money on certain returns and you're just like, well, it's okay because I'm just doing it. If you want to be a solo practitioner, that is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But if you're looking to scale your business to where you actually have employees, these are the types of things you need to take into consideration. So, like I was saying, I learned to do, let's say your flat fee for this W 2 return is $500, right? You have to figure out if that's the billable, how many hours are you going to be working on this return? When you think of billable hours, what is your billable rate? Okay, so let's say you have your billable rate at $200. So that means for every tax return, you're only factoring in that it's going to take you 2.5 hours. Now, for basic W 2s, that's pretty sweet. I can tell you the complex returns that I was doing at the firm, I I don't think I ever got anything done in 2.5 hours. But again, it's just different types of tax returns. Okay. But let's say that 2.5 hours, with that 2.5 hours, if it took you 4, you're out of budget. Now, going back to that, let's make it a little bit more complex. Let's say that now you hired somebody that you're paying $30 an hour, right? But their billable time is 100 an hour. So now you have where they have up to 5 hours to work on it and still make sure you have their pay covered, right? You still have to cover software costs, but now that you have an employee, you not only have their pay to cover, you have to cover the employment taxes. If they have any benefits, you still have your overhead because if you have an employee, it's very likely that now you're in an office building. If you have an employee but they're remote, they're just different things. Now you have to pay for a remote desktop, perhaps. Maybe you have to pay for the laptop. Now you have additional insurance. There are just other things to factor in that we don't think about when it's just us. So, one of the things that I would encourage you to do when pricing out tax prep and then when we move out to representation is create a budget. You should know how many tax returns it's going to take for you to prepare before you break even. And with that break even, again, think of all of your overhead. Okay? Because with that, you don't want to be a tax professional who runs out of money by May 1st. All right? Although it's something that a lot of tax professionals run into. They may make 6 figures gross, right? In the first 3.5 months of the year, but then they're broke by May. And it goes back to not having a budget and trying to compete on price versus value. All right. If you hopped in later, maybe you didn't hear me say, like, I raised my base price, nobody has even flinched, which means I didn't raise it enough. Right. But what's going to happen with that? Yes, my internal costs have gone up, but I'm also going to make more of a profit, which is going to make what I do more enjoyable and bearable because I'm going to actually be compensated better for the work that I'm doing. All right. So Alex essentially gave me an amen. Flat fee doesn't work for a diverse client base. If you're a niche based firm, then it makes sense. Absolutely. And that's what I was getting to, you all. So for those of you just starting out, if you're doing a little bit of everybody, listen, it's your business. You ultimately get to do what you want. I would just discourage you from doing flat fee pricing unless you are working with one type of client. Because again, my trust fund baby here with the stock portfolio that has all the Disney and the Facebook and Microsoft, all that stuff that blew up, their return and the return of my school teachers who don't have the stock portfolio that have 5 children, it doesn't match for me to charge them the same, okay? So Keisha, good evening, and I know I owe you and the rest of the crew an email about the 1099 miscellaneous. But Keisha says, I tell my client my base fee and I explain the prices based on the complexity, but will be given after I review their documents. Awesome. So I know people that do that as well. For me, this is the first season since pandemic that I'm taking new clients. So with that, I consider the approach that you said. Excuse me. However, for me, up front, I ask questions about the forms that they have, and what all they did because again, I'm doing a base fee with forms-based pricing. So I ask the questions like, how many children do we have? W-2s, do you have a stock portfolio? Those types of things. I guess, and it's probably for me, I don't want to go through all your stuff and I don't know I'm going to get paid. But no, Keisha, thanks for sharing that because I do know people who say that works very well for them. Um, let me see. Before I move on, do we have any other questions? And guys, like you don't have to wait until I say, do you have questions to drop questions in there? Because I know we have a few more people because now it looks like we have about 20. So I know I haven't heard from everybody tonight. Let me see. So, ooh, I forgot to ask this. So sometimes I forget, and please charge my head, not my heart, that not everybody who's an enrolled agent, everybody who's a tax professional, not everyone comes from an accounting background. So when I was referring to you should know how many tax returns it takes for you to break even, did everybody know what I was referring to with that? I am sorry. I didn't talk about that a little bit more. Miss Alita, look, I told them I sent out the email and said, hey, I'm taking a break, and I am. I have not been live on a Tuesday for this year. But I missed you all. I did. So I decided to go live just briefly tonight and on YouTube only. And I say briefly, and I've been on here 43 minutes. Um, but yes, I was just talking about pricing for a little bit inside of the beta program tomorrow. For those of you who may have hopped on a little bit later, tomorrow we are going into that in more detail. So we'll actually be reverse engineering and doing a break even analysis for tax prep. And then if you're doing tax representation and tax planning as well. So I guess I was just warming up so I can be hyped tomorrow. So cool. DeLacy says yes. Keisha, yes. Misha says totally makes sense. Thanks for the advice. You are welcome. Okay. So Tony, I thought you were loving me and leaving me. I didn't know you were going to stay on this long. He asked, curious, what do you build in after overhead for profit? So this is interesting. Because I think everybody considers overhead different. That makes sense. So I would say not direct overhead. And I do have mine broken down. I know everybody doesn't. Into direct and indirect. I have the amount that I want to put into my pocket at the end of each quarter, put in there into my break even. Because for me, growing up, I played basketball, right? So if the coach 8 seconds to get down and back, 10 seconds to get down and back, I have to admit, At that time in my life, I was the person that if I got 10 seconds, I'm gonna get over in, like, 9.9, right? Um, so with that being said, for me, if I see break even, I know exactly what it is. I need a push goal. So let's say not profit in the business, but let's say that I wanna be able to pay myself 25,000 in Q1. Something that I build in as a non-negotiable, just like I would with my insurance, just like I would with, the software costs, because that's non-negotiable. I put in there too what I wanna be able to pay myself. One of the really cool things that I got to see and, like, to be blessed with was to see my business, like, double, triple, do all that cool stuff. But you all know in the beginning phase, like, when you're investing in the business, you're putting, investing money in coaches, maybe programs, software. You don't get to pocket a lot of it, right? So, one of the things that I do is, like I said, I want to be able to pay myself a certain amount. Another thing that I think is really important that I think that other people should consider as well, I go ahead and factor in what I wanna be able to, pay for continuing education. Right? So during our 3-year period, for those of you who may not be familiar, before you renew your EA license, which is required every 3 years, you need 72 CE hours. We live in a virtual world, you can get your CE on webinars and things, but if you get it on a webinar, it's convenient, um, in the way that you don't have to leave home, you don't have to get dressed. I have a daughter who's 11, I can stay here to still get her from school and everything, but it's really important to do in-person continuing education to build your network, to become more educated on different things, right? So, for example, Tony asked the question, I had seen different stuff about the pack around, but I wouldn't know what it was if I hadn't gone down to Florida. I think at that conference, I got 18 hours of CE, but I got to meet people like Tony, and then now I know about the pack, which intrigued me to go to Fly In DC, get to meet even more EAs, get to represent my state at the Capitol. So all of that happened because I went to in-person CE. So that's another important, I would say CE and networking, because at Fly-In you don't get CE, but it's an awesome experience. Um, Paying me, I have built in the CE because again, and think about it, you guys, honestly, your CE is not negotiable once you get your EA license. It's something that you have to have. Um, you know what? I'm drawing a blank. Tony's gonna make me pull up my thing. For certain years, I have upgrades that I want to be able to do. So, for example, if you're not familiar, the Monday after Thanksgiving, my computer crashed. I've been saying I was going to get a laptop, but I didn't actually like bake that in to do. So then I was forced to have the whole thing rebuilt because it crashed. Um, I know I kind of went on a ramble. I hope I answered that for you, Tony. The two things for sure, though, um, and I guess I do like to have in there too for the people who are working for me. Um, Before even seeing performance, I want to make sure I have the ability to give them bonuses. And it's not always, like, after tax season, it may be at random what would appear to be random times, but where I really, really needed the help. I like to have the ability to be a blessing to them, so that's something that I have factored in for me. I know that wouldn't apply to everybody if you don't have people working with you, if you're working solo. You know what? And now that I'm reading the question, I may have not even answered it right. Oh, if I didn't, I'll come back. Because I have some interesting profit goals this year. I'm sorry, Tony. I don't think I read that right. Irvia asked, after becoming an EA, is it advisable to learn bookkeeping? So, for you as a business owner, and I would advise all of you this, if you're going to be a business owner, if you are going to be preparing business tax returns, if you are going to be representing business owners, at least at minimum, some type of accounting 101, right? So, this is another thing that I forget going into it, that everybody doesn't have an accounting background. So, when preparing a partnership return, S corp return, uh 1120 regular corporation return, nonprofit, you have to understand how the equity accounts work. You have to understand how the balance sheet works, how the income statement works. And not having an accounting background, you wouldn't understand those things. So maybe not. If you do accounting 101, theoretically, you should understand bookkeeping. Um, if it is at a community college, something online, you need to have that basic accounting 101 knowledge. Okay. I think I need to do a part two because pretty soon I know my husband's going to be coming up and my daughter. What I want to encourage you to do, though, especially if you have not already set your prices, you don't have to do like me and do forms based pricing. With the flat fee pricing, if you're going to go that route, my suggestion would be to serve only one type of client so you're not cheating yourself. Okay. Create some type of budget so you have set in, okay, this is how much I want to make for profit with each return. This is my cost. This is how much time I want to spend with each return. And factor in as well, if you're onboarding the client, that's time spent on the return. It's not just the time that you're putting their data in the software and you're calculating things and checking everything. And it also is going to include the time that you're offboarding the client, right? Because that's time that you're taking from making any other type of money to work on that. So you have to factor that in. So make a budget. I think very, very, very that's going to depend on how much overhead you have. I was going to say a certain percentage for your profit. For me, let's say, because I don't, hang on. For my very, very simple W-2 returns, so let's say, I'll go back to the example I used earlier. If I have two parents, or I'm sorry, a married couple, they both work and they have a child. With that, I want 50% of that tax prep fee to be profit. Now, what does that mean? Maybe it's not so much that they don't understand the return, but they enjoy speaking with me. If that's the case, I don't mind setting up a review for them. But if I'm looking at the budget that I have set for this tax return and the billable rate for a contractor doing them for me, right, is less, that means I need to have the contractor do that return so that I'm not spending my time working on the return and sitting with them for 20 minutes. Okay. So, again, using an example from earlier, if my billable rate is $500 an hour and they like to have their review with me to catch up, So I'm doing a 20-minute review. I'm already baked into my $500 if their return is costing $500 for them, right? So, with that being said, 20% of 500 is what? $100? So within the budget, I only have 20 minutes in there devoted to that. So, with this return, I need to figure out how much time should it take my preparer to prepare it? How much time do I need to look over it to make sure that everything is correct? Because for me, with that simple return, I want $250 profit. All right. Now, what that will look like is something I'm going to do with the beta program tomorrow. But when you create that budget to figure out what the pricing is going to look like, make sure that you have all of your overhead cost factored in, right? So for me, the amount that I want to pay myself, I now have factored in as an overhead cost. That's non-negotiable because if I had somebody serving in the position that I do, that would be non-negotiable, right? It would be an indirect cost, not overhead, but still, it'll be a variable cost. Make sure you have your software. So that's tax prep software, your CRM or portal. If you have something separate to do the secure signatures, so if you're paying for DocuSign, I think I dropped $388 for them last year. So that's something I want to have factored in. For me, because of the software I use, I have a remote desktop. That's $174 every month. So I need to have whatever that cost is for the year factored in to the tax return, right? If I'm buying my tax software at one time and one lump sum and not pay per return, I need to have that total cost factored in and then see, okay, if I do 50 tax returns, what's the cost per return with that software? So for me, when I added all that stuff up and looked at the target of how many tax returns I actually want to file this year, before I even touch a return, it's costing me $100. It's very important for you to go in and add up all your costs to figure out what is it costing you before you even touch the return, because that told me not that I was doing this, thank goodness. I don't have any business doing an $85 return, right? If Intuit wants to do that, that's on them. If Jackson Hewitt wants to do that, H&R Block, if they want to do that, that's on them. I can't do that because even if I didn't believe in myself, if I charge $85, I'm already losing money and I'm paying to do somebody's tax return. And that is what a lot of tax professionals end up doing when they compete on price and not value. You can't worry about your next door neighbor. You have to worry about what your costs are and making sure that you're covering them. Does anybody, before I hop off of here, have any questions about how to create the budget for their tax return or what things that they should consider to be in their overhead and direct or indirect costs? Like I've said before, we have the tax software, we have the e-signatures, we have the CRM or portal. For me, remote desktop, that was a must, and not necessarily a must because I want to work from everywhere. I don't want that on my personal computer, right? I actually am grateful to not have it on my personal computer or have anything cloud-based so that I can't overwork. All right, so I know there's a slight delay, but if you guys don't have any other questions, I stayed on like 40 minutes longer than I thought I was. I hope you all have a wonderful evening. If you are not already, make sure you join my email list at www.americasfavoriteea.com. In addition to that, if you are interested in learning what I was talking about tonight, I mentioned the mentorship group. The beta program is closed. Okay. The caveat to that, though, if you weren't in the beta program, you can still participate in the remaining classes if you join the Enrolled Agent Mentorship family. With that family, there are 2 live monthly calls, but then also within the family, whatever I am teaching that is in relation to building an EA firm, whether that's pricing, marketing, if I do a class on how to actually do a form like with the 1099 compliance, you are able to come to that and it's included with the membership. So I do have people who specifically purchase the beta program. Once the official launch in May, that program is theirs for life. I shouldn't say program. The course is theirs for life, right? For my people who are already in the EA mentorship family, they get to attend the live calls that the members of the beta program also are doing. So I believe it's like March 7th is our last call. So we've met every Monday of the year with the exception of this past Monday because it was a holiday. But we've worked on different pieces of building the EA firm. So you've missed almost the whole first half. But again, if you're interested in joining in this next month or tomorrow, rather, we'll be working on pricing, clients, and services. But for almost the remainder of the time, we will be focused on doing specific tax forms. And we will also be focused on tax representation, learning the basics in marketing. Now, if that's something that's of interest to you, you can most definitely still join the mentorship family. That's also at americasfavoriteea.com. I just dropped the link at americasfavoriteea.com / tax rep journey. So I'm going to hop off. You all are very welcome. Thanks, Arvia, Nelly, Misha. Thanks, Tony. Love you too. I'll see you in May. And I hope you guys have a wonderful evening. Bye now.